In 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello Pokemon trainers, and welcome to another episode of the Name Raiders here on iStarlyTV. This is the second episode of the Name Raiders, and I am once again your host, Scarecrow.
And I'm Deiter.
And first of all, before we start this episode, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who supported our last episode and who's been supporting our channel. We're definitely a very new channel, and we've gotten a good amount of support in the past day or two, so that's definitely much appreciated. We would like to say thank you all to all who have watched these videos and any videos we've put out and who have helped us with feedback in our previous installment of this show. Deiter, would you like to say anything?
I would like to say thank you again and keep supporting.
Yes, thank you all. So without further ado, we'll get to the point of this show, which is to rate names. And this time it'll be Deiter's turn to have 3 of his Pokemon scrutinized under the Scarecrow's spotlight. So without much more to say, let's start with Deiter and the Pokemon he would like to introduce first.
Okay, one of my Pokemon that I will show off to Scarecrow is one of my favorites, and it's a Golurk. And I nicknamed my Golurk Autobot.
Autobot the Golurk. Alright. That's a pretty good name, I would say. I can definitely see why it's nicknamed Autobot, and I think a lot of you can. If many of you are familiar with, Transformers, the popular, cartoon, TV show, movie, and even they made toys of it. It's a very popular series. I think it debuted a long time ago in maybe 70s or 80s. I could be very wrong, but anyways, that's not the point of this. The point is that Autobot is a good name, a very solid name for a Golurk, and I think it's one that fits it very well. It's very cool, Golurk is a Pokemon that really could evoke many different nicknames. It's a really easy to nickname Pokemon because of the fact that it's a giant, it's a golem, it looks a lot like a robot, and I think that's where Autobot comes in. If you look on its Pokedex description, Golurk is described as an automaton Pokemon, which, if you look that up, I had to actually look that up at first because I didn't know what that was, but that's essentially like a humanoid figure, kind of a robotic humanoid figure that kind of serves a purpose in some ways. So it's kind of an automated human substitute in some regards. So I think that fits Golurk perfectly because it's also defined as a guardian, as a protector in the Pokédex, and it's an Autobot, which is, in Transformers terminology, if you're familiar, Autobots are the good guys. So it captures a lot about Golurk that I'd like to see. So I would definitely give this a very high rating. I would rate this on a scale of Pokeball, Pokeball being the lowest, to Master Ball, Master Ball being the highest. I'm actually going to give this an Ultra Ball. Deiter?
Well, thank you very much for that reading. I appreciate your little analysis for my nickname. And, well, let's just move on to the next one. It is my Zangoose, and I nicknamed him Goon.
Goon the Zangoose. Alright. This one is also, in my opinion, a pretty solid name. It may not be as solid as Autobot for Golurk because it doesn't really capture too much about Zangoose in my opinion, but what it does capture, not much about the Pokemon Zangoose, the actual physical being Zangoose, but of the name Zangoose. It does a really great job of kind of rearranging letters and kind of giving you a short and concise and I think pretty powerful iteration of a name. Like in the last episode we had Chief the Braviary, and I thought that was a good name, obviously because it was my Pokemon. But I thought that was solid because, it's a short name and it just says what it needs to say, in my opinion. So Goon is a great name for Zangoose. It takes some letters from Zangoose, the N from Zan, and the Goo part from Goose, and it puts the N at the end and gives you Goon. And I think it's a good name. Maybe not spectacular, but I would definitely give this a reasonable rating of a great ball.
Okay. I thought it was a masterpiece. Goon, crazy, wild. That's what Zangoose is. But okay, I'll consider your great Val. And my last one I'm gonna show you is Crustle, I happen to think is very cool, and I like crystals. And I named this one Dwebby.
Sorry. Forgive me. That, okay, I'll definitely say that Deiter's two first nicknames were very solid, but Dwebby really doesn't hit home for me. What do I say about it? What it does is, for me, Crustle is a very cool looking Pokemon, and it's a Pokemon that I think could really get a lot of nicknames very easily. Like, it's a Pokemon that you can come up with probably more than 5 nicknames for, so it's an easy to nickname Pokemon. You know, maybe Sandbox, Sandcastle, there are a good number of things you could do, and Dwebby does very, very little, if nothing, to capture the essence of Crustle. What Dwebby is good for is capturing the essence of a female Dwebble, which I believe is probably where Deiter found this Pokemon. He probably captured it as a Dwebble, and it is a female. I'm looking at it right now on his Pokemon game. And so, you know, catching a female Dwebble, and if you're at a loss for what to name it, you can name it Dwebby and get away with that. But when it evolves, I think you might want a more solid, more powerful name for it, because Crustle is a very cool Pokemon. It's a bug type, which is not super amazing, but it looks powerful. It has a humongous chunk of sand on its back.
So does your mom.
Don't ask him how he knows that. But anyways, yes, I do not like this name. I think even for a Dwebble, which is more suited for, it's not a good name. And for a Crustle, it's even much less of a good name, and I think there are so many better names you could name. You could name it Sandy, and I'd like it better than Dwebby. This is definitely a Pokeball for me.
I'm disappointed in that. I thought it was funny, you know, Debbie, Dwebby. It's clever, but whatever.
That rhymed. So, looking at this was a pretty solid run for Deiter. You know, in the last episode, I think he didn't give me super good marks. And this time, you know, I gave him an Ultra Ball, a Great Ball, and a Pokeball, so it was a descending kind of thing. It went best to worst, in my opinion. But just please let us know what you think. Who do you agree with more here? Do you think Dwebby is not a solid name for Crustle? Do you agree with Deiter? Do you think it's very justified? Do you like the name Autobot? What would you name any of these 3 Pokemon? And yeah, what other feedback do you have for this show? Anyways, thank you all for your support. Thank you all for watching this installment of the Name Raiders. I'm your host, Scarecrow.
And I'm Deiter.